welcome viewers. My name still remains Uncle P. We are still on to ISIFE EDUBLOG. Please, for more information or more videos, please hit the subscription button down there. You see it on the screen. So we're going to be looking at the PNS. The PNS means the peripheral nervous system. It is anything that is not at the central axis of the body, but they are in all part of the body, but they, one way or the other, they are connected towards the CNS. They can be going from the PNS to the CNS or leaving the CNS to the PNS. These are bundles of neurons. So all these parts of the PNS that are bundles of neurons, the bundles of neurons, bundles of neurons are collectively called the nerves. Bundles of neurons, like we have many neurons that are bundled together are collectively called what? Nerve. Or we call the nerve what? Cell. The nerve cell. Now, the PNS, like I said, is broadly classified into the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. But before going into the details about the broad classification of the CNS, I would like to take you on to the types of neurons. Types of neurons in the PNS. Neurons, types of neurons in the PNS. Types of neurons in the PNS. One, we have what we call the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron. And two, we have the motor neuron. Motor neuron. These are the two neurons in the PNS. But we have only one neuron somewhere at the CNS, that is the central nervous system, which is called the interneuron. Interneuron. The interneuron is a neuron found around the CNS, that is the central nervous system, while the sensory neuron and the motor neurons are neurons that forms part of the CNS, part of the PNS. But in all, we have three types of neurons: the sensory neurons, the motor neuron, and the interneuron. Remember, I told you that neurons, there are bundles of neurons, or the bundles of neurons are collectively called the nerve cell. So there are types of neurons, which are the sensory neuron, the motor neuron, and the interneuron. The interneuron is found at the CNS. They are part of the CNS, while the sensory neuron and the motor neuron are parts of the PNS. The sensory neuron is a type of neuron in the PNS that take information, that move information or transmits information from the PNS. The sensory neuron transmits impulses or information from the PNS to the what? CNS. That is the sensory neuron. They are part of the PNS, but they move impulses, information from the what? PNS to the what? CNS. While the motor neuron begins its work from the CNS and then extend to the PNS. So I'm going to move this motor here. The motor neuron should be here, and because it is here, it begins from the CNS. It is not a part of the CNS, but it begins from the CNS and now extend its work to the PNS. The sensory neuron begins from the PNS and extend its work to the what? CNS. And then the motor neuron begins from the CNS and extend its work to the what? PNS. And then we have the interneuron, which is only located at the CNS. That one doesn't move from the CNS to the PNS, and from the PNS to the CNS, it remains intact only at the CNS. That's why we say that the CNS comprises of one neuron, which is interneuron. It is only situated or positioned at the CNS. But the motor neuron and the sensory neuron at all time are taking impulses to and fro to the CNS. Is either one is taking impulses from the PNS to the CNS, and one is bringing impulses from the CNS then to the what? PNS. Like I already said, the CNS, the sensory neuron, move impulses or transmit them from the PNS to the CNS, and the motor move impulses from the CNS down to the what? PNS. I'll still use this illustration again. This is the brain. This is the spinal cord. This is the muscles. The muscle, and there is an impulse. Maybe there is a pressure here, and these are bundles of nerve. This bundle of nerve is going right to the what? To the spinal cord. And one of these bundle of nerves are the sensory neuron, which receive this pressure, convert the pressure as impulse. The impulse must be through electrical means. These impulses are moved along this nerve ending of the sensory neurons. They convey it until it gets to the spinal cord. Once it gets to the spinal cord, another neuron that is at the central nervous system, because here is the CNS, which means the motor neuron will begin its work from the CNS and come back again to the PNS. But on coming back to the PNS, the neuron, the motor neuron is going straight to the effector. The effector could be gland, the effector could be muscle, the effector could be organ, where its effects is exerted. That should be the target organ. So this is the target organ. The motor neuron is bringing impulses from the CNS to the target organ. This target organ is called what? The effector, which could be a gland, which could be a muscle, or which could be what? An organ. These are the three things that through which motor neuron bring impulses from the CNS to affect this effector gland, effector muscles, or what? Organs. Now, basically, so in this illustration, what is a sensory neuron? Can you define sensory neuron? You can pause the video and want to attempt the question. What is sensory neuron? I can define it as sensory neuron. Sensory neuron, I can say that this is a neuron that begins from the PNS as it transmits impulses away from the receptor on the line, away from the receptor to the CNS. Full stop. Because the sensory neuron is moving impulses away from the receptor. Sensory neuron can also be referred to as afferent neurons. Afferent neurons. You can underline this. So you can use afferent and sensory neuron interchangeably. Why can you use it interchangeably? Is because this is a type of neuron that is moving impulses away from the what? Receptor. What is a receptor? A receptor is a particular part of the external stimulus that someone feel an impulse. I'll give you an example. If this is a finger, okay, and this finger somehow is punctured by a pin. This is pin. Okay, Now, because the finger is not the central, is not part of the central nervous system, but there are nerves that connects this finger to the CNS. And those nerves, like I said before, one of it are sensory neurons. So they are here. There are nerve endings of the sensory neuron. Look at the nerve endings of sensory neurons. Look at the neurons. So immediately there is the pin punctures the skin, you feel pressure. You feel pressure. Not only pressure, you feel pain. You feel pain. You feel pain. So this nerve ending of the sensory neuron converts this pressure and pain to impulses. These impulses now move through this sensory neuron. It moves away. So this part where this pressure is felt, this particular region where this pressure is felt, is what is called what? Receptor. We call receptor because this is the part that receives this impulse. And this impulse are received in form of what? This impulse, not as pain, not as pressure, but they are received in form of what? Impulse. Because the sensory neuron is moving these impulses away from the receptor, away from the receptor, they can be called what? Afferent. Afferent neurons. What does it mean? It means that this neuron is moving impulses away from the receptor, then to the what? CNS. The CNS is their target organ. That's where they're going. From the receptor to the target organ, which is what? The central nervous what? System. Now, let's look at the definition of a motor neuron. What is a motor neuron? I can say that this is a neuron. A neuron that begins from the CNS and then extend to the PNS. And then extend to the what? PNS. Now, assuming that you have a pressure or pain from this part of the body, the finger, this is the finger, and there's a puncture here. Okay, there's a puncture. This part of this finger here is my PNS. And this part is my what? Is the what? CNS, the central nervous system. Look at the PNS, the finger is part of the PNS. The CNS here, we can have either what? The spinal cord or what? The brain. And we have a situation here. There is a puncture, there is a pressure, there is a pain. Which part of the neuron receives that pain? The part of the neuron that receives the pain is the sensory neuron. So it begins. So that means it's moving impulses away and it's coming here. Once this neuron comes here, it will meet another neuron somewhere here, somewhere around here. The two neurons can never join together. It's not possible. These two cannot meet together. So there is another neuron in the CNS that connects the two of them together. That neuron is called, like I told you before, is called the interneuron. It is not found in the CNS, it is not found in the PNS, it is only found in what? CNS. It is not here, it is only here. Okay, now, which neuron is bringing impulses message to the CNS? It is the what? Sensory. Which I told you, you can still call it what? Afferent neuron. So impulses, pains, pressure, as in form of impulses, are relayed to the CNS. And then the impulses need to jump. But meanwhile, there is a space that is existing here, in between two neurons. A gap in between two neurons. This is a gap. A gap in between two neurons is what we call the synapse. The synapse. So the impulses need to synapse, need to jump. Let me put it that way. It needs to jump and should be able to enter this neuron. So, but this particular interneuron helps to connect sensory neuron with motor neuron. What this neuron does is to interpret impulses to the motor neuron. So once the impulses has been interpreted, it synapses this neuron and enters this next neuron that is leaving the CNS back to the what? PNS. But the PNS is now going on, it is going straight to the targets. Going straight to the target's gland. That target is what we call the effector. The effector. And those effector can be glands, it can be muscles, it can be what? Organs. So because the motor neuron is moving impulses from the CNS to the effector target gland, we can refer motor neuron as what? Efferent. Efferent what? Neuron. Efferent neuron. Note the difference between efferent and afferent. Afferent is when the impulses is moving away from the receptor. Efferent is when the impulses is moving to the effector. And because it's going to the effector, the neuron can also be interchangeably called what? Efferent or efferent what? Neuron. So to complete this definition, we can't just stop here. We can say that this is the neuron that begins from the CNS and extend to the PNS, and extend to the PNS, and extend to the PNS as it transmits impulses that has synapses from the sensory neuron to the effector. Please underline this effector and what can this effector be. This effector can also be called the targets, which can be targets organ, it can be glands, and it can be what? Muscles. In terms of muscles, the motor neuron cannot control the bicep muscles and the tricep muscle to relax and contract, so that if the person has put his hand inside a hot object, the hand can be quickly withdrawn without further thinking or further delay. So these are the types of neuron. The last part of neuron is the neuron we say that reside only at the CNS. It is not part of the PNS. It is only seen at the CNS. Its function is to relay or to connect the sensory neuron with the what? Motor neuron. The sensory neuron move impulses away from the receptor to the CNS. And then the motor neuron move impulses to the effector. So the one that is moving impulses to the effector from the CNS is efferent, which you can still call motor neuron. The one that is moving impulses away from the PNS to the what? CNS from the receptor is called the what? Afferent what? Neuron. Then the last neuron are the neuron that you see only at the CNS that coordinates or connects the two neurons. So when impulses are coming from the peripheral to the CNS, the impulses need to jump or need to synapse, need to cross the gap that is in between the two neurons. So the interneuron will help to relay or to connect this neuron so that the impulses can synapse or jump and enter the next neuron, which will now bring that impulses from the CNS now to the effector where the responses, which is called the target organ, is felt. The target organ will be felt. Maybe if there is danger, the person can withdraw his hand from danger. If someone is coming to put something in your eye, you blink your eye to show that there is a response, which means that the motor has responded to that intervention, that this is an involuntary action which you don't need to control. So there would be blinking of eye as a result of impulses moving to and fro from the PNS to the CNS, from the CNS to the effector. So these are the reasons why most of these involuntary actions are possible, because of what we call the reflex. These are the types of reflex actions. So the part of the PNS that regulates all involuntary actions is the autonomic. nervous system. We're still going to look at the autonomic nervous system critically and examine what happens in that part of the peripheral nervous system.